All right, everybody. Welcome to the Q3 Engineering FGU. I'm Eric Johnson, the VP of Engineering. Here is what I'll be walking you through today. Some of our survey results, preview of Q4 OKRs for engineering. I launched a README doc, which you may or may not find interesting. I've got some links to active issues, and then I'll take questions in chat. And I think this is our first time doing YouTube streaming for this FGU, so bear with me if I have to switch between YouTube comments, Zoom comments, those sorts of things. So jumping into the survey, big thanks to Jessica Mitchell and PeopleOps for organizing this again. I've got links here to the sort of charted results as well as the raw data, which is visible to everybody inside the company. Some of the positives that I took away, confidence in engineering management, meaning myself, directors, managers in aggregate, was quite high. That was great to see because this is a relatively new thing to GitLab. We've added a lot of people over the past 10 months or so. So it's nice to see that that's resonating. In general, like one of the key drivers of engagement is whether or not people understand how their day-to-day work maps to the success of the GitLab project and the company GitLab. And that in general was quite high. So that was fantastic to see because that means people are engaged and they're understanding what's going on and it's being communicated effectively for the most part. And also zooming in on the kind of team level, I've listed a number of teams here that in general had really great engagement and answers to most questions are in the 90s, which is fantastic to see. So I credit to the managers of those teams, I've listed them here, but also the teams themselves, right? This all isn't top-down stuff. A lot of this is how teams interact with one another. So I think it's credit to the cultures that all of the teams have created themselves. In terms of areas of improvement, I would say in general, it fortunately or unfortunately, it did reflect very similarly the last survey that we did about 6 months ago. So in that sense, there's nothing new. That's good. But in another sense, it means we didn't make as much progress as I was hoping against some of our pre-existing goals. And there's some reasons why for that. And then there's some things that I wish we would have done better. So one of the first big themes was top-down communication of important decisions. This is a challenge at every company, every engineering department I've been a member of or have led. I think it's even more of a challenge for us being fully distributed. So I take this one really seriously. So we're going to continue doing multimodal communication, which is something we kicked off last time. Dahlia made a great suggestion of doing an engineering week in review. So we've started gathering this information, and every Friday, with the exception of the summit week, we send this out via email to everybody in the engineering function distribution list. And also I Slack it to the development channel and my VPE channel. So we'll see if that has a positive effect. Career development is another big theme. This is one that came up last year. We had intent to do it, I think, in Q1 or Q2, but it just fell below the cut line, unfortunately, due to the GitLab.com project, all the work we had to do to build out our infrastructure teams. But now that we've moved successfully to GCP, I think a lot of time is freed up, particularly on my part, to concentrate on this. So apologies to the group of knowing this was an issue, not being able to address it, but don't worry, you're heard, and our sense of urgency is high to improve this. So I did merge something last night. So I linked to the handbook there. It basically outlines the 3 components of career development, meaning opportunity needs to exist from the company side of things. We're very fortunate at GitLab, there's no shortage of that. We're growing so fast. Positions are opening up. The need for more senior people exists across the board. So no shortage of opportunity there for people that are ready for it. The next is the initiative of the employee themselves. What I outline there is that almost all forms of advancement involve stepping into some form of informal or formal leadership. And so career development does require initiative from the employee side of things, not just to make it happen, but also because it's in some way, shape, or form a qualification for moving ahead in your career. I merged this last night. Tommy has already improved it and fleshed it out with a bunch of detail because he's been focused a lot with his managers on career development. So he already quadrupled the detail in the third section, which is the framework and the structure that the company provides to make career development something that's well understood and something that's transparent for the company. So Tommy has already improved that third component of career development. But take a look at that. if you think of more things, submit an MR, create an issue to get a discussion going. We very much want to make this participatory and make sure that we're addressing the concerns that you have for that. And then execs listening to employees, again, another thing that's very common, especially as companies are growing. It's, of course, not an intent, but a danger that things become more insular, and this is something we need to actively work against. So this link to Slack is not an overarching initiative to address this. It's just sort of one opportunity to address this. So Diana posted a question: can we be more transparent when there are terminations, both voluntary and involuntary? And I jumped in there and just said, hey, let me package this up. Let me take this to the exec team and try to make something happen here. But I promise to get back to you, either way, even if the decision is no change. I'll make sure that we close the loop here. And so that's just one way that one opportunity to make sure that we're listening as much as possible. And I look forward to more opportunities. If things like this come up and you feel like that you aren't being heard, pull in one of my peers, and we'll do a better job making sure to close loops. In terms of what's next, People Ops did purchase a product called Culture Amp, which is fantastic. I used it heavily at my last company. It's a really, really nice tool. One of the big asks for this time around, because it was our second engineering survey, was, can we have time series data? It's like, well, that's actually really hard to do, but Culture Amp makes it easy. And so we didn't do time series analysis for this one because we knew it was coming, and we would get it for free when we do the next survey on Culture Amp. They also provide lots of really interesting tools to slice and dice data. And because they're a platform that other companies are on, they can actually provide comparables, like how are we doing in response to this question compared to companies like us in terms of tech companies of a certain size, let's say, which is really nice to have, because there's always a question of, hey, how are we doing? How do we really know? And Culture Amp helps answer those questions. There's also, in my opinion, a better guarantee of anonymity. This is a question a lot of people have. A lot of people were suspicious about filling out the survey. What we tried to do, because it was on Google Forms, is just make the raw data available to people so you could see that there's no email addresses in there. It's just timestamps. However, I understand that people are cautious about this sort of thing. Now, adopting a platform to someone who is naturally paranoid about this isn't necessarily going to make them feel any better, but I can tell you from experience, it's Culture Amp's business to provide anonymity to the employees of their customers, and so they take that very seriously. And so as we start to use them, I encourage you to have faith in that. No one is looking to find out individuals. We're looking for trends here, and Culture Amp, in my experience, does a really nice job of that. Next, I'm not sure the answer to this question, so I put a question mark after it, but I'm talking with Jessica today. I think the next survey may be company-wide, not just engineering, which would be exciting because we hear the voices of the broader company. And then I hope it would be really nice to see participation go up to 90%. I think the first one we did got into the 80s. This one, due to various reasons, we promoted it differently. We had the summit coming up. We had the GCP migration project. I think participation dipped into the 70s, which is unfortunate. So I hope going forward, we can do a better job promoting it, and that we increase people's confidence that this is a good thing to take part in, that positive action will be taken from it. And therefore, we want to make sure we're hearing everybody, so it's truly representative of either the engineering function or perhaps the company as a whole. We'll see. So Q4 OKRs. Here is our planning issue. This is open to all. There's probably about 25 assignees of this issue. It's every director and manager in engineering. We've done this a number of times, so it's proven to be quite effective. This is an asynchronous way to plan large, complex OKRs for a sophisticated department. The general guidance is, we limit ourselves to 3 goals for focus. We're going to have one goal again for the error budgets to incentivize GitLab.com availability alongside shipping with high velocity. Managers and directors of the hiring plan, which I am going to guess is just about everybody, should have an OKR for meeting their sourcing targets and filling their hiring plan. And that sort of leaves, for most departments, 1 or 2 KRs that are basically up to them. Leaders in various areas should be determining what the highest impact thing they can work on is, whether it's a feature or a dashboard or something like that. And so we want to hear proposals from everybody. And since this is open to the whole company, the whole engineering function, if you have an idea for something your department should be doing, by all means, jump in the issues there, or perhaps there'll be a sub issue or sub MR for your manager, your director, and push those ideas to them. But we want to hear that stuff. Generally, I thought, hey, we want to be more metrics driven. We started some dashboards last quarter. I would love to see those get built out. So if that gets any interest or ideas percolating, that would be a great thing to do, I think. And of course, I'm a believer in OKRs, but I believe they have to be done right. And one of the things that means doing them right is kicking them off, come hell or high water, the first day of the quarter. So people have the whole quarter to tackle these goals. And so I'm going to make sure that happens. This issue will be due about a week before the quarter, and that gives me about a week to just kind of make sure everything is aligned, nudge things in different directions so people are collaborating effectively. But we'll definitely kick them off October 1st. And then my README. So there is a curious sort of recent trend in engineering leadership to write READMEs for yourself. For people that aren't developers, a README is basically a file. It's usually text or markdown in the bottom level of or the top level, I should say, of a repo. And it's sort of like Alice in Wonderland. Those little cakes say "Eat me." It's sort of like that. The idea is you go to a new repo, you read the README, and you learn everything that you need to about what's going on in that project. And the idea is do the same thing, but for people, and give everybody in the organization an idea of, hey, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? How do I communicate? How can we collaborate more effectively together? So I jumped on this trend, and I stubbed one out. I think it's just probably about 15 bullets or so now. It'll probably become more elaborate over time with subheaders and whatnot. So take a look at that. And everybody can contribute. So if there's something that I don't know about myself that that you think would be useful for other people to know, by all means, let me know, or go ahead and submit an MR, and I'm happy to take contributions on this. And Tommy had done the same thing. So when he started, he wrote a README for his managers that he was inheriting, Sean and Dawa and others. And I think that was quite helpful. And he got his in the handbook as well. So take a look at that. And his is more mature. He's been working on his for years, I think. So that's a good template for anybody else that'd be interested in doing this. I do encourage directors and managers in my function who have a team book section, which is all of you, go ahead and think about doing this. I think it's a really handy thing, and it's nice to have out there, be public, be transparent, and have a handy URL you can give new employees when they're starting about how they can collaborate effectively with you. And then just some miscellaneous active issues people might be curious about. Our backlog is huge, so I wanted to kind of highlight a few things. One is we're considering adopting engineer instead of developer in our titles. I think probably I would guess the majority of people don't kind of care either way. They would view them as synonymous. I think there are pockets of people that care one way or the other, and we want to hear that out. My biggest excitement or concern here is on the recruiting front. Is one of these titles more powerful than the other in terms of attracting people from outside the company? And I think that for me is sort of the tiebreaker, because things seem to be about even on both sides. And so we're discussing things there. I think we're likely to move ahead with this, but it got paused in favor of the summit. So there's still time if you're passionate about it to jump in and join the discussion. The next one is we're adding free gold for GitLab.com to our employee incentives. So this hasn't merged yet, but it will soon. And people can add gold to one of their accounts and get all the benefits and start using our what are normally thought of as our enterprise level features. And then there's this issue that started via Slack about can we give more detail about terminations, and what does it mean to balance transparency against obviously the privacy concerns and legal protections that are necessary for the company. And there's a good discussion happening in Slack, and then I think more can go in this issue here. And I see someone's cutting and pasting something. I'm guessing this is a previous issue about this issue. I did link to that in this 618 issue, so I think we've already kind of covered over the history here. But this was discussed about a year ago. We're kind of reopening that. And then lastly, just a reminder, I've got weekly office hours. So they happen today at 11 a.m. This is a short week for me, so it's at an unusual time, but in general, they happen every Thursday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific. So you're always welcome to join, jump in and lurk or listen, or tell me whatever's on your mind.